Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you in another session of our Ed Talk series. I'd like to give a real warm welcome to all of our colleagues and our friends from Finland today. Hip hip hooray to all of you. Thank you for joining our program. Super excited to have you. I am Andrea Ferrari, founder of Wholeschools International. And with my partner, Gabriela Gonzalez Pacheco, director of our programs, we have created this live space to inspire conversations around education during these times of change. Education is transforming, and at Wholeschools, we believe that equity, innovation, well-being, and happiness are the keys to a change that is sustainable, that is future-proof, and that can face the challenges of the short and the long-term consequences. And it's for that reason that we gather in this space with experts in the educational field, opinion leaders that can guide our educational communities with their international perspectives so that together we can co-create a new landscape in education. And today, we're super honored to have Helena and Mika all the way from School Day, Finland. And the title, of course, it couldn't be more exciting. So School Day Wellbeing and the Magic from Finland. Welcome both, and welcome Gabby to our program.
Thank you so much, Andrea. It's really great to be here. Couldn't be more excited joining with Helena today.
Thank you for having us.
Amazing to see both of you, and given the time change with our, thank you for being so awake and so lively and ready to converse with us. I know that both of you grew up in Finland and would really like the opportunity to ask you what that's been like.
Yeah, if I may start, and Helena, you can continue then. So yes, we're both located currently in Helsinki, Finland. And Andrea, as you mentioned, so Finland, happiest country in the world. Our education system has done really well. And that's really exciting for us. So being from Finland and the education system, it's based on freedom, trust, and well-being. And really a great, fun country to grow up in and be a citizen part of.
Yeah, so if I continue, it's a very safe and kind of steady pace country with an education system that kind of views students as a whole. So a lot of social emotional learning involved in the education in Finland.
I would like to say it's just that for us it's so interesting to have these conversations because we always say that education is a universal theme. However, the different perspectives from the different points of the world enrich this conversation so much because there are many things that we can learn from the experience of others, but also just discovering especially the best practices that we can share for educators during this time of growth, as Andrea said. So I think it's amazing that you guys made the effort. We know it's at night over there where you guys are. So thank you for being here. And Andrea, you were going to say.
Well, I just want to, reinforce the title that we have here. When we think about magic, we think about things that happen in ways that sometimes may be unknown. And if you will, share with us, what are some of these secrets, or why do you think that there is magic? What is the magic behind the success of Finnish education?
Well, that's a great question, Andrea, and something we, of course, get asked a lot. And Finns are very humble people, but I would say with the education system, we're super proud of it. So like previously, maybe the Nokia phones were known around the world, around the globe. But nowadays, anywhere we travel and go, it's the education system. Everyone knows or has heard about it. So that's really, really something we take pride in. But as for the magic, I think there's not really one silver bullet to it. And this surprises a lot of people who ask about it. But it starts with how we built the society after the wars, focusing on the welfare state, very much on education, and very an integral part why Finland, what the magic is actually the teacher universities that they have to go to. So teachers in Finland have the university degrees. They're very competent in what they do. And it starts from there. And then there's a whole lot of other things. And of course, well-being is something that we at School Day want to amplify for the whole global community.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more that teachers are the pillars that sustain our educational systems. And having just celebrated not only Teachers' Day here in Mexico, that we're so proud to, celebrate the efforts, the paramount efforts that our teachers are making, that you would mention them. And yes, they are at the heart of the work that matters the most every day. Sorry, Helena, I took the center stage, and I want to give it back to you to see if you want to add any comments about the magic of Finland and its success in the education system.
Well, I really think that it's the way that our society values education and how our country values education. I mean, from a student perspective, from a teacher perspective, I think we just emphasize the importance of having a good educational system.
Absolutely. Something I just saw a reporting, an article that talked about schools in Australia, and they were talking about how there's a crisis going on because teachers are leaving the profession. They're just they don't feel motivated, and especially they were very emphatic about feeling valued, which I think it's important, because people can be in love with what teaching is and what education can do. But if you do not feel that you're being valued and recognized for that effort, or you don't have the resources necessary to make it in a positive way, then just people lose heart and they leave, which I think is the saddest thing that's happening because of the pandemic. Is this something that did not happen? I mean, throughout the pandemic in Finland, it must have been a difficult adjustment for teachers as well. How do you think it was handled in a positive way so that teachers don't have this negative impact?
Well, I think it's what we're seeing at School Day. This has been a global phenomenon with teachers, and really how much extra workload they have had with, remote learning and getting more and more tasks on the table. But I would say Finland has done fairly well on that side. And of course, that's something we want to help and really bring to the teachers in Latin America, in the US as well, what we have learned in Finland, and really bring the learnings to other countries as well, so the teachers can cope with the well-being and really take care of their students.
You have something within School Day, correct, that helps monitor teacher well-being, which Andrea and I found just fascinating because, well, that's one way of ensuring that teachers are doing well, right, Helena?
Yeah, so I mean, student and teacher well-being are very intertwined, and students notice and they mimic, adults in their lives. So they can see when their teachers aren't feeling well. So this was something that, especially during the pandemic, we wanted to highlight that, improving student well-being has to come with improving educator and staff well-being as well.
About School Day, just for the sake of our audience, and this may be one of the best kept secrets in Finland, and we're so happy to share it. I'd love to listen to you tell a little bit of your story and what is School Day and how and why did you start it? And we're looking here at Mika Kassinen, the CEO and co-founder of this initiative that's come a long way.
Thank you. It's been a very exciting journey, and neither me nor Helena don't have educator backgrounds, but we have a lot of educators in the team, and really our dream, and I guess I can speak for the both of us, has always been to found our own company and do something with a higher purpose. And really, when we started with School Day, it really, like you said, sensed the sort of community globally, how important everyone is willing to share and, learn from each other. And that's really energizing. And that's something that has energized our team as well. And what School Day basically does, we focus on student well-being and teacher well-being at the same time. So it's a tool that measures, analyzes, and it helps, schools to improve student well-being on a weekly basis.
Excellent. Well, we do know that what you cannot measure, you really cannot manage. So when you talk about measuring, you're really putting this intangible idea of well-being or student happiness and teacher well-being and teachers being satisfied and doing their work at ease and being motivated. How is it that this turns into something that can be measured? How do you make that tangible?
Yeah, I mean, with the team and of course working with a lot of educators in schools around the world, we started with the research. So that's so critical to be backed on research. So everything that School Day does is backed by 30 years of empirical research in both well-being and also social emotional learning. Together with the universities and very closely, we're working with the University of Helsinki. So instead of, asking students like an annual survey, how they're doing, what kind of support they need, we wanted to change that to have a weekly pulse for the students to have a voice and express in a safe environment how they're doing. So basically the research-based questions that we provide to the students are like, do you have any friends at school? Are you getting enough study support? Are you eating healthy? Are you getting enough sleep? And by doing this, it's a very powerful platform to start and initiate conversations in the schools about well-being and social emotional learning.
Mika, that's something that, to Andrea and I, it was something that really drew us to it because unlike other social emotional programs, your starting point is a diagnostic. I think that's such a big difference because it's different to talk about a program that is created in a bubble where you think about what should be done and how it should be structured instead of saying, no, let's see where the students are at, especially now because of the pandemic. I think we're seeing uncharted territory on students, because they've had different experiences during this time of isolation. So how can we know what's their starting point unless we do a diagnostic? That is what you guys created, which I think is amazing, because then from there you can create an intervention, correct?
Absolutely. And then it's so important also because we're all human beings and our sentiments, like this week I might feel energetic, but the next week I might feel a little bit tired. And through School Day, you can really make these things visible on almost, real-time basis, which is really important, powerful for the educators and then, of course, the school leaders as well.
You know what, Gavin, you brought up an important point about pandemic. Just before you move away from that topic, I'd really love your impressions, Helena and Mika, on the impact or what role does well-being and social emotional learning now play as an aftermath of the pandemic and during the pandemic? How has this accelerated the importance of these two dimensions?
Well, if I can start, for students going back to school now, it's going to be a lot more stressful, and they're in situations where they're feeling pressure, and they have to have the tools to be able to adapt to different learning situations. And I think this pandemic has amplified the need to get those tools and get them fast. So.
Absolutely. And one thing, of course, we're seeing everywhere, a lot of worries among the younger ones. How they have been coping with the pandemic. But the good thing is really that before the pandemic, well-being globally was still sort of seen as a nice to have thing in schools. But now, after the pandemic, because all the school leaders and the teachers are seeing, what the root causes and what has happened. So it's become a really critical part of even the curriculum and the pedagogy in all the different schools that we are seeing.
And from a teacher's perspective, I think the amazing thing is that you receive the benefit from the diagnostic without going through the hassle of sifting through all of the information that helps. It's already figured out. So that way you can just receive the diagnostic and just figure out from there what you need to do to have these conversations, as you said, no, which are so important right now. I think, did you notice a particular benefit during the pandemic with the use of school day in Finland?
Absolutely. I mean, especially because you're missing the whole face-to-face interaction that you normally have at school, and then having a platform as school day can be really powerful. So the teachers at least have some kind of, pulse and sentiment, how the students are coping remotely at home, which is a totally different setting for what, we were normally used to. So the results, from that sense, we've seen great examples from Finland. So the teachers have gained insights from their classes, and they were able to adjust their teaching and then different methods, and also the topics that they were covering based on the data.
Sure. It brings to mind something Gabriella, when she started her line of questioning or conversation, she spoke about the universality of education and how we've all been experiencing at different ends of, I guess, the spectrum and different cultures, the same sort of symptoms or effects. And I'm wondering now if this is a program that was born in Finland, created and imagined in Finland. What are some of the things that you can tell us that are universally applicable and that are relevant, that keep school days super relevant? Because I understand now, and Helena, you are probably the expert on the expansion and how it's been a focal point for our educational sector in Latin America and now, of course, Mexico. So a little bit about that, the universality of what guides school day.
Well, I think learning starts with students feeling well, and that's something that is very universal. Children or students who are trying to manage problems, especially after the pandemic, that can be very big for them. I think they really need tools, and they need help, and they need support, and that's something that's very universal. So, and that's what we are trying to say and get the message across, that when students feel good, they really do learn better.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that less is more, right? So such a simple concept that drives such a deep and important, the basics and the fundamentals of learning. Thank you, Helena, for mentioning that. Sorry, Mika, interrupted you.
No, just one thing I wanted to add is of course, school day. We work with educators globally, so we keep the local mindset always. But with the design, just to keep it simple, and as Helena said, we're talking about the learning and how much it affects the well-being. But in the research and in the model and the contents that we use the OECD framework for social emotional learning. They're very universal, research-based. And also we use CASEL contents, which are the best ones for social emotional learning.
Well, definitely, you mentioned one of the most important organizations that lead and measure nations and the development of countries based on their economy, their education. Of course, as Finland scored the top for the PISA score results years and years in a row, and which led to this belief about your educational system. What would you say then? We were talking about universality and the OECD. Tell us a little bit about well-being. How is that? What are its dimensions, and what is important not to lose sight of it when we are at school and we're thinking about student well-being? Can you tell us a little bit more how that looks in the day-to-day? What are those elements or the realms that school day really dives into and takes care to produce insights about?
Yeah. If I may start, and Helena, please continue, but I would sort of go back to the sort of whole Finnish magic and experience. And in Finland, I believe teachers teach 50% less than in the US, and kids play 50% more at school. So it's not just about sitting in class and, you know, learning these different math calculations. And so it's very much about play, having fun, spending social time with the students, the peers, and of course the teachers as well. So I would start from that. And Helena, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, the Finnish education system, the way we see it, it also supports the model that we use at School Day, you know, where we have social relationships, we have wellness and health, we have social emotional skills, and we have learning. So looking at it from the whole perspective and trying to see the whole student, I think that's something that, you know, the Finnish education system and the School Day model have in common.
I love what you just said. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea. It's just that that part about teachers feeling overwhelmed. I think I've heard that consistently from different parts of the world. And when you talk about teachers having the capacity or the structure that allows them to do less but do it more meaningfully. I think it's so important because it would really make a difference. And I think something that happened with the pandemic is that teachers now have even more to do than before. So it hurts the process of working towards well-being even more, correct?
Absolutely. And that gets back to the leadership question, but you cannot add more and more things on the table. You need to take something out or then think, how could we do this better using, say, a digital tool or some other processors or whatnot. But that's a very important topic.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad we're discussing this. I just had a conversation last night with a teacher who's feeling this way. And one of the things that stuck in my mind was she said to me, how can I in reality convey to my students that I want them to be well and that I'm looking out for their well-being when I see myself and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I'm not feeling well and I'm not feeling like I'm being taken care of or that I'm taking care of myself. So I love the fact that you have taken this at heart at School Day and found a way to, in parallel, not only measure our students and understand where they are and how to go forward, but that it all begins with the teacher. Can you tell us a little bit about how the teacher plays that key role within School Day now?
So we measure teacher well-being. It's a similar model to what we use with the student well-being. And there we really want to, focus on helping schools systematically get data on how educators are doing. And then based on that data, school leaders can then make decisions and allocate resources more effectively. So.
Well, excellent. Well, we've learned that School Day is really a wholesome and integral service, and it makes us very, very keen on understanding how we not only can take and look at the well-being of our student, our teacher, our classroom, our group, our level, our school, our district, our municipality or a region, but also the pulse of well-being of our country. And that talks a lot about how education can lead us to a road of continuous improvement, a betterment plan. And as Gabriela was saying, it all begins with a diagnostic and how we use that to inform the decisions that we're making. Can you give us some of the best feedback you've received or some of the, when you speak to leaders around the world, what may be some of the feedback that you get from your students or from educators about the program?
Well, I think for students, there's actually two things that kind of stand out from the feedback we get. And the first one is providing them with an anonymous platform where they can really honestly, tell us or tell teachers about how they're actually feeling. That's definitely one part. And then the other part is the discussion or the interventions that come after the surveys. So that's the part where you really get the students kind of hooked on answering questions. It's creating this transparent culture and a sense of community within the classroom. And I think that's something that teachers also praise is really getting the students' perspective on things and helping them understand how they can impact the whole classroom and how they can, support one another and create this like small community within a bigger community. So those are some comments that we get that have been really, really great. And then also, 90%, over 90% of our educators say that when they use school, they know based on that data how they can support their students and their students' well-being. So it's really great to hear.
Well, I love community and community and community over and over again. Certainly, we know that that's what helps students thrive, teachers thrive, families thrive, and then, lo and behold, you've made a mindset change. You're setting, a different kind of agenda whereby well-being becomes the culture of the school. And it starts with one student, with one teacher in one classroom, but the potential is just something that is geared toward the betterment of humankind. So we're very, very inspired by the program, by the solutions, and by what we're seeing coming out of it. We have about 3 minutes left. I'd love to give both of you a chance to sort of recap and leave us with some good bits of advice. I know that there are many schools that log on to our program on a weekly basis. And for those that are out there hearing us or listening to us, there's some advice that you could give, how they could get started or how they could, change gears and really start focusing on the well-being of their teachers, of their students, of their educational communities.
Yeah, happy to. And we love to work with different schools, and we have a lot of schools together, of course, with you guys in Mexico and now starting in Peru. But what I would really like to say is that start with something. And as Gabriela mentioned, with school day, it doesn't take too much of your time. And also you get all automated contents and feedback and all that. So you don't have to spend too much time on it. And you can really pick up the first, insights and start working on a specific, area that has come up. So that's really exciting. And of course, what I also want to mention is that we also do provide the service free for teachers. So teacher classroom setting. So any teacher is free to take the school day into use and try it out and really get the first experience.
I love it, how it's so readily accessible. Thank you, Mika.
Thank you.
Helena, over to you for your closing remarks.
Yeah, like Mika said, we have the free version for the teachers and for classrooms. I would say just try that out and have your students answer the questions and have that first discussion, even if it's it doesn't have to be an hour discussion. It can be 5 minutes just checking in with them to see how they're feeling and providing some tips on and tools for them to cope in this weird situation after the pandemic. So
that sounds really good. I love the reminder that this is all about opening up the channels, starting the conversations whereby they are meaningfully grounded in the student experience, their day-to-day life experiences, and the teachers, which makes everything very authentic and very, very relevant. Living in a day and age and in a world where everything's really at our fingertips, sometimes we forget that the most important piece is the first connection, the one-to-one, the feeling valued by our teachers, by our peers. And I think promoting that is what you're saying, opening up the conversation. So I love the idea for your conclusions. Thank you very much, Mika and Helena. Any closing remarks from Gabriela? We're just about wrapping up.
No, I just say thank you. And I loved that remark again about helping teachers without overloading them, and just understanding that you can have a very good quality in education, as you guys have, without necessarily saturating it with so many things. So I think it's just an invitation for all of us who work in education to just pick our battles, not to just really choose what are the essentials. And definitely something we cannot take off the table is well-being. Something that before we wouldn't have thought so, no, because education-wise, it wasn't thought of as a priority. But now we need to understand that it is. And then thankfully, there are these programs like the ones you guys made that can help us get there. So thank you.
Amazing. I love your closing remarks, Gabby. And once again, well, to all those out there watching and listening, it's all about that, creating community and raising awareness of the things, the different tendencies, innovation, and what is out there for all of us to capitalize and gain on how we're going to face these challenges that are here for the short and the long term. So thank you all for being with us today at another session of our series. A huge hug to Mika and Helena and the whole team over at School Day. We're so happy to have you on board, and well, have a good rest of your evening and see you next week.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.